All right. Hello, hello. This is the AU Wishbone doing something a little bit different today. I am your host, Van Allen Plexico. I'm joined as always by my co-host,
I'm John Ringer.
John. We're going to do something a little different that we've never done. We've talked about doing stuff like this before. We've talked about doing it with a live game or a recorded game, whatever. But what have we decided to do it for?
One of our favorite games in Auburn history, the 1994 trip to Gainesville to play Steve Spurrier and the Gators.
Yeah, this is the 30th anniversary, believe it or not, which seems horrifying to think it's been 30 years this fall since Auburn went down there. And I was lucky enough to be at this game. And it wasn't just luck. I was finishing up my master's degree at Auburn. No, actually, that was fall of '94. I already had my master's. I was in the PhD program at Auburn before I transferred to Emory, and I was living with a guy who had been in the marching bands. He's a big Auburn fan too, and this was the year I went to every game, but I wasn't going to go to this one. It just seemed like, why go all the way down to Gainesville to see us get killed by the stupid, horrible Gators? But all week, the hype built up and built up. And I finally looked at him like early Saturday morning. We got up, we were sitting there on the couch, and I looked at him and I said, let's go down to the game. And he goes, we're going to lose. And I said, yeah, we're going to lose. But what if we win? And he goes, get in the truck. And so we just jumped in the truck, drove straight to Gainesville from Auburn, found tickets somewhere on the side of the road, went to the game, and it was incredible. It was an awesome, awesome trip, awesome game. And so what John and I are going to do here is try to do like a little play-by-play, little color analysis. We've got some notes. We've got some sort of in retrospect thoughts about it. We've got a little Terry Dean business that we talked about in our book a couple of years ago. So any other things we need to, I guess I got a little introduction here, but any other thoughts you have about it going in?
One of the most dramatic games I remember, but also you have to, and I think you do this with your notes, but the 93 season, we weren't on TV.
Right.
And so we had won a bunch of games, but many people had not been able to see it or didn't know what this team was like. And I think that contributed to the Auburn as a fluke mythology heading into 94.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, people remembered that the 91 and 92 teams had only won like 5 games each year. And then Terry Bowden comes in 93 and they go undefeated, but they're not on TV. And a lot of their wins in 93 had been come from behind wins. And they didn't get to go to the SEC championship game, even though they qualified. They would have been, in the second one ever if they hadn't been on probation. And I think people also missed that while this wasn't a super deep team, it had really good players, a lot of key positions that never really got hurt, right? Like a lot of teams that aren't very deep, you get enough injuries over the course of the season that your season kind of peters out. But the 93 and 94 Auburn teams never really got many, if any, serious injuries and were able to go those 2 full seasons with the paper thin depth that they had. So like I had a friend from Florida a few years ago that said, I don't understand how that team won any games. What players did you have? And I said, well, think about it. Our kicker was like an all SEC kicker. Our punter was the one that was punting 70 yards, those 2 years. The guy that Jackie Sherrill said would put helium in the ball. That was him. So he was all SEC or all American. We had the 93.
Great secondary.
Oh, the secondary was probably the best Auburn's ever had, or at least it played like the best. This is the same secondary that won the interception game a couple of games earlier with LSU. This between the LSU game and this game, they had like 10 interceptions just in those 2 games. They had a fifth-year senior quarterback in Stan White in 93, and then 94, a guy that had been his understudy in Pat Nix. That was fantastic. That's Bo's dad, of course, which we'll talk about. You had Frank Sanders, one of our great really possession receivers. You had Stephen Davis, an NFL running back in 94, and you had Bostic ahead of him in 93, James Bostic, who was great. A lot of other pretty good receivers, a very decent offensive line, and a pretty solid. In fact, The one position on the 93 and 94 teams that was probably the weakest was linebacker, but they were able to cover that up with the secondary being so good.
Yes.
So we'll see a little bit of that in action right now. So now we're not going to have the audio for you, but that's what John and I are here for. We're here to do the audio while we watch the game. This is kind of like those YouTube videos. Van and John react to the 1994 Auburn, Florida game. So off we go. Yeah. You didn't hear anything there, did you?
No.
Okay. I did, but I'm turning the mute on, so I won't have to deal with it. All right. So the swamp, right? Here we are. There's the Gator.
How do you feel about the swamp as a visiting fan, that stadium?
Well, the thing I always say about it is the stands are right on top of the field. You're down in a hole, and there's no track around it like in Jordan-Hare. There's Terry Dean. Oh, bless his heart. This is really going to be the nightmare for Terry Dean.
He's got good hair.
He did have good hair, but he did not have good judgment in this game. I've got to mention, here's what the Florida Gators website, really quickly, how they describe this game. On October 15, the Tigers, 6-0, came to the swamp still unbeaten, winners of 17 straight under Terry Bowden, ranked 6th in the country, still ineligible for the SEC championship. Florida was number 1 in the country, and Gator Nation, having stewed on that 1993 Auburn loss for a year, was poised for payback. Florida at 5-0 was a 16-point favorite, with national pundits pointing to the good fortune, quote unquote, that had accompanied Auburn, 5 victories by 5 points or less for the nation's luckiest team, said Sports Illustrated. Yeah, a lot of quotes flying around. During the country's longest winning streak, the Tigers had struggled for a 22-17 win at Ole Miss and had to hang on 30-26 in the interception game. Those two teams, Florida beat by a combined 48 points. So the perception was Auburn was about to encounter a buzzsaw, and the 17-game winning streak was about to end. The Gators led the SEC in total offense and scoring. Let's see. One storyline going in was that Steve Spurrier had been promoting Terry Dean, the quarterback, for the Heisman Trophy. He already had 18 touchdowns so far, but Spurrier had been warning him to clean up his play because he threw 3 interceptions the week before. And finally, John, this is pretty cool. Going into this game, Florida was 15-0 against SEC opponents at home under Steve Spurrier. They had never lost to an SEC team at home up through this point in 1990, 91, 92, 93, and this is 94. So this is the 5th season under Spurrier, and they've still not lost at home to an SEC team until today.
And that perception of Spurrier and Florida at that point is important to understand.
Yes.
They were this buzzsaw, this kind of chew you up and spit you out. And Auburn had taken other teams there. It had not been pretty.
No.
So we did not have a favorable feeling in the swamp. We were always worried about it. We felt like our team could compete because of last year, because of 93. But this was a place where no SEC team had beaten Spurrier, and that's a big hurdle.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the 1990 game, we went down there. I was there, and it was 48-7. We scored, and then they scored 48 unanswered or something like that. So it was a tall order. Playing Florida in the swamp seemed like a very different thing than playing them anywhere else. And I think they maybe lost to Florida State under Bobby Bowden at this point, but they hadn't lost to an SEC team. So at home. So there's Spurrier in his polo shirt, his golf shirt. I've always said the thing that always cracked me up about the Florida coaching staff in this era, they always looked like they were in a hurry to get to their golf game as soon as the football game was over, right? They had their little visors and their polo shirts, That's the look that Gus Malzahn kind of wanted to copy, and he said so. He said he always admired Spurrier as a coach, and that's the effect he was going for with the visor for sure. So, okay, you can see the big crowd. I'm somewhere in there. I was in the end zone up in that upper deck around where it says 1994 there.
At some point, I want you to comment on the Auburn uniforms in this game. And the difference.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember if they were particularly.
Were we doing drop shadow at this point?
Not yet. No, that's not till like 96 or 97, I believe. I did notice that Cole Kubelik, and hey, we got a Brent Musburger game. I noticed that Cole Kubelik in the background when he does videos on YouTube, he has his Auburn jersey framed, and it has the drop shadow. Yeah,
Nice.
I like that a lot. So all right, here's Musburger telling us what to expect. The other thing I wanted to mention, this is also known as the monkeys fly out of my butt game. I used to, when I lived in Atlanta the next year, I moved to Atlanta the next year after this game, and the great radio host on Atlanta radio, Chris Domino, had said the week before this game, there's no way Auburn's going to win this game. Monkeys will fly out of my butt before Auburn wins this game. And I used to call into him and say, "Hey, Chris, are monkeys still flying out of your butt?" Was this the Senator Holtz game, or was that a later Auburn Florida game? There's an Auburn Florida game where Lou Holtz said he would get elected senator before Auburn beat Florida.
I don't remember. I think he was still actively coaching at this point. So
yeah,
it was probably one of the later games, 2007,
2001. All right, here we go. So we go straight to it. It's 3rd and 11 here. We're hitting the highlights. 3rd and 11, and Patrick Nix is going to drop back and hit Thomas Bailey. Long pass over the middle for a first down. Bailey had been a great player for Pat Dye. I believe he was a senior by this point.
And you can see Auburn does the Terry Bowden style offense, the quarterbacks in the shotgun, a lot of split running backs. But the passing game, it really exploded coming out of the Dye era into the Bowden era. We had good receivers and quarterbacks that could make it happen.
Bailey from Enterprise, the current hometown of our buddy yard sale artist, Jared Albrick. All right, Nick still in the shotgun, split backs. And he's got Joe Frazier to the right, but he's going to go Gator. That was the first occasion of the Gator play. They put this play in just for this game because of the way that Florida's secondary played was to just have the tight end drag and go right over the middle. And you'll see Andy Fuller on the far right in the tight end. The linebacker lets him go, and he's wide freaking open in the middle of the field.
Andy Fuller's bigger than I remembered, man. It's a big dude.
Yeah, and he's wide open this entire game. This game was called Gator, and they would signal it by doing the little Gator chomp, and it worked over and over and over. We gotta have a conversation in a minute about the Florida secondary.
Okay.
Because I'm not impressed. All right, here we go again. Split back, shotgun. We got a tight end this time to the left. And they're going to fake the ball to Stephen Davis, and Nix goes deep for
Bailey.
Bailey again. Thomas Bailey. I like the play action to Stephen Davis, drew up some of the defense. And what do you make of Florida secondary? Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Not good. I mean, Florida was an offensive team, right? Their whole mantra, Spurrier was a quarterback. He was an offensive guy. Their whole thing was, we're going to outscore you. And they had, historically had good players on defense, great athletes and that kind of stuff. And they have some guys on this team, but their defense was really the just hold the opponent down a little bit and we'll score 40 on them. That was the plan.
That really bit them against like Nebraska in that national championship game before they brought in Bob Stoops to be their defensive coordinator. That's what turned around. All right, so here's Terry Dean after Matt Hawkins hit the extra point. It's 7-0 Auburn. Terry Dean. Oh, not a great start for Terry Dean. He fumbles the opening snap. Not good. I believe that's Gary Walker. Is
underrated player, Gary Walker.
Yeah. And Spurrier's already getting ready to throw the visor. He's thinking about it. He's getting the itchy visor throwing finger. Ball's just right there.
It's tough to tell. Like, is that on the center? Like bad connection with the quarterback, or was that really on Dean? What do you think?
It's kind of just a bad connection there.
Yep.
So there's the Auburn band having a good time. So Auburn takes over deep in Florida territory. And we're going with the split backfield, tight end to the right, I believe. Nick's dropping way back, and there's Gator again. Look at that. Once again, eating them up with Gator. That's Andy Fuller. That's two. And they're going to settle for a field goal here. They end up getting stopped because Florida did have a pretty good run defense. I don't know that. They had a pretty good run defense, but their pass defense was not good.
But also, you can't understate how big those two series were. We're on the road. We're huge underdogs. Yes. The crowd is absolutely at 11, and Auburn comes out and scores 10 quick points. It's big.
But Florida is Florida, and Jack Jackson, boom, right back down the field they go. This was always the danger with Florida.
Yeah.
You've got to just keep scoring because they can come right back on you.
And this was the area you could pull your helmet off and not get a penalty. So
yeah, that's right. So Terry Dean, first he fumbles, then he throws a touchdown pass to Jack Jackson wide open over the middle. That's probably the worst play of the game for Auburn secondary.
Agree. And they had great receivers, right?
Oh.
And so Jackson is a good player, but they got Riedel Anthony, they got a Hilliard and those other guys.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's like the fourth guy I'm worried about.
All right. So Nick's, again, play action, fakes a toss. And guess what? A little more challenging this time, but he gets it to Fuller.
They decided to cover him. Why is this guy looking at a TV?
I was wondering that.
Is it because he's so low in one of those seats right behind the bench?
Oh, the Florida stands are down in the bottom, yeah. But check it out. All right, so Fuller's lined up on the left this time, and see he's just going to kind of come out, fake it to. There's Joe Frazier, number 5. He was a fullback this year. He was a running back the previous couple of years, and then Fuller snatches the ball out of the air.
Good hands by Fuller.
Oh, yeah. That's the third. All right. We're in the first quarter, and Fuller's already – in fact, he only had 2 receptions all season, and he's already got 3. Now, here goes Stephen Davis. And see, if we can loosen him up and get Stephen Davis cranked up on the ground, we're in business.
And nobody ever talks about Stephen Davis when we talk about the great running backs in Auburn history, and he was a gigantic recruit when we got him and a really productive player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it was direct snap.
It was a direct snap from Shannon Robique. That's right. I forgot. So Stephen Davis across midfield. And then by the way, I mentioned Joe Frazier. He was the running back on like the 91 team as a freshman. All right. So now we switch ends. I believe it must be this next quarter. And look again, there it is. Number 4, fourth Gator play, Andy Fuller. Now they're just not adjusting. They're just not adjusting to things. Let me pause it for just a second because I want to ask you about this. So I was thinking Ron Zook was the defensive coordinator, but actually I looked it up. He was the special teams coordinator at this point. It was Bobby Pruitt. Are we familiar with Bobby Pruitt, or did they kick him out of football after this season?
I'm sure he was put on an island or whatever after this season. I mean, when you have at Spurrier's view is if we have one of the top 2 or 3 offenses of the country, we got to win the whole thing. And if we don't, it's the defensive coordinator's fault. So
it's his fault. And I thought that was interesting that means that when Spurrier left and they hired Ron Zook, I was thinking they hired their defensive coordinator. They hired their special teams coordinator as their head coach, which just seems odd. I don't know why.
But he may have moved up to defensive coordinator when what's his name left to go to Oklahoma.
Okay. Stoops. Yeah, that may be. And I think he might have gone to the NFL for a year or two too, and kind of gotten some more experience. He also, I want to say maybe that Zook was one of their better recruiters, and they thought that would be important, obviously. So it may have been a little bit of that. Okay. All right. So the current score is Auburn 10, Florida 7. And
leave it right here 1 second. I just want to put like the splits on the Auburn offensive line, how wide they are, and then how wide the defensive line is really something you don't often see now, unless it's a kind of a air raid team. So,
and this is an interesting formation from this angle because you can see we've got the 5 offensive linemen, and then probably Fuller there on the right side for him, left side as we're looking, and then you got the 2 running backs. So if you want to pass, you got 8 guys that can protect Patrick Nix, right? You could have an 8-man protection here, or you could do 5 and send 3 of those guys out in the pattern, or hand it off to one of those. It's an interesting. You don't see the 2 running back and a tight end shotgun that often. Usually it's just
No.
one running back.
It was that time. It was a very much of that era thing. But also, I think it's like what you said earlier about the Florida secondary. We knew if we could protect, we could do some damage against them. So
yeah, and they had the ability here to do max protect for sure. A lot better protection for Patrick than his son would get, I'm afraid, down there in 2019. Of course, to be fair, the Florida quarterback got eaten alive too by Derek Brown. Oh, Derek Brown had one of the games of his career at Florida in that game that we lost. So, all right. So Nick's back in the shotgun here. Oh, this is a replay. So they're just showing Fuller going out. Pretty simple, really. Right. So the running back stays in and blocks, and Fuller's wide open, and Spurrier's got to be pulling his hair out. How are you not covering that? How can you miss him? He's huge. How are you not seeing that guy? All right, fake draw, and then lots of time for Patrick Nix there to Frank Sanders. There's our first Nix to Sanders.
Yep. Fred Beasley on that field too. Another.
Oh, that is. Yeah, Fred Beasley, who would be really important in the Alabama game that year. All right, here comes Matt Hawkins. And he's going to attempt a 44-yard field goal. And he makes it. Couldn't make one against Georgia, but made it against Florida. Pat Sullivan's son, I believe, was the holder. So it is 13-7 Auburn in the second quarter now. There's Pat, and there's Spurrier. All right, Terry Dean is back out there. Dean going to drop back, looks over the middle, and throw a very ill-advised pass to Brian Robinson. You remember that name a lot from that year, don't you?
Again, he's still riding that wave from the LSU game at this point. So.
Oh, man. I know. I'm
Dean's
surprised.
Looking around like, where'd he come from?
Yes. Well, now we'll talk about – all right, hold on. All right. Hold on. We got to talk about that because that's going to happen again. And Spurrier just looking around like Jim Valvano looking for somebody to hug. He's looking for somebody to tell him what just happened. So here was the deal. I have a little note here, but I want to go ahead and mention it now. Someone had told us that the Spurrier system demanded that the quarterback take the deep shot. It might have been your brother. Maybe it was Pat. That the quarterback take the deep shot if the secondary played a certain way, and we kept kind of baiting Terry Dean into thinking that, and he kept doing it, and we were not in that, and we would intercept it. Does that sound right?
Yes. No, I mean, they had certain keys. If the safeties are playing a certain way, throw the deep shot to the outside, and Auburn would set up looking like they were in something else, and then release the safeties to go get it. So,
yeah, and over and over, and did they do that? All right, so Brian Robinson with the big interception. And then I believe we're going to skip ahead here. We're going to see. So Jack Jackson looks like he could catch this, and Robinson just, I don't know, the ball's a little short maybe?
I think it floats a little bit, but also Robinson cuts it in front of him, and I think Spurrier's saying, go get it. Like, go get the ball. You kind of.
All right, so now we're back, and Terry Dean, when you're not throwing interceptions, you're taking the big sack. That's 6 sacks on the season for Gary Walker.
In both of these games, 93 and 94, pressure on the quarterback was a big part.
Yeah. So he comes he just comes right through the center. The running back's kind of blocked by his own man there, and so he gets the big sack on Dean. But then here's what Florida does. They get right back down there to 4th and 1, and they run the little wide receiver.
The wide receiver pass.
The wide receiver behind the quarterback thing. Kind of the Ontario McCaleb play.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Jackson's fast. He gets in there. So that's 2 touchdowns for Jack Jackson. Did he ever really do anything in the NFL? He seems like the main receiver here, but I know Reed Anthony and Ike Hilliard go on to big things in the NFL, but I don't remember Jack Jackson.
No, I think this was probably his best game ever. I bet I could be wrong.
That's interesting. All right, so he's going to get in here. They kick the extra point. It's going to be 14-13 Florida. This is the first time Florida's led in this game, which, is pretty shocking. This extra point is going to make it 14-13. Because remember, the previous year, we were down 10, about to go down 17 when we got the interception. So, all right, here comes Dean again. Oh, here he goes. If he lays, the center fielder.
I don't think there was a Florida guy in the picture when he caught that ball.
No, it looks like the LSU game again. And look where Brian Robinson
Brian
ends up.
Robinson takes his helmet off on the Florida sideline. That is some epic level
So
90s
good.
taunting right there.
Every time Dean drops back and looks deep, I'm just like waiting for something good to happen. You know, it's like supposed to be the other way around, but you're just like, oh, look, Dean's dropping back. Christmas came early. look.
You can't see the Florida player.
There's nobody.
There's a receiver over to the right, and then there's some pressure on Dean from the backside. I don't know if that messed with him and he couldn't step into it or whatever, but that was a giant
like a punt. Play. Oh, 2 tight ends. No, 1 tight end on the left. Oh, why
I formation.
I don't know what happened there. We cut away. But Auburn's going to be 3rd and 4 at the Florida 28 after that sequence. Here they go. Yeah. All right, 3rd and 4 for Auburn at the Florida 28. And the passing's been working, so let's try. Oh, look, trickeration. Oh, no. It's Frank Sanders on the end around, and he's going to score. Yeah. That's a different kind of Nix to Sanders, isn't it?
The old school reverse worked so well when you had the I formation, you could run the ball. There's Victor Riley.
Yep. I always enjoy when Steve's just, he wants to throw it, John. He's pulling at it. He wants to. So that was 3rd down, and they had us stopped at their 28. And instead, Stephen Davis gives it to Sanders, who comes back the other way. And I mean, it's a good idea if you're trying to negate Florida's run defense and get into that bad secondary. A reverse is not a bad way to do it because it gets you past the defensive line, and now you're just dealing with the safeties and the corners.
And Florida really over pursued to the side the running play was going to.
Yeah, they did. Oh, here comes Dean again, and he's oh no. It's so fun. Everybody remembers the LSU game for this, but I think we don't score, right? The difference is in LSU, we got it in the end zone every time. This game, the offense had to come out and do something after we did this. But this is as much an interception. Oh, it's off. But yeah, that's the difference, I think, is that in the LSU game, we took it back to the end zone, and in this game, we had to actually put the offense out on the field to get something. So we went for 2. They didn't show it. It's and didn't make it. So it's 19-14 here. So Chris Schelling takes it to the Florida 27. Look at Dean Spurrier.
Spurrier's like, I don't even want to look at you.
Look at that expression.
Spurrier's always like, I called the right play. You just screwed it up.
That's 100%. All right. So Hawkins kicks the field goal. And it is 22-14, getting ready to go into going into halftime. Yeah, we just didn't have enough time there to do anything. So, all right, here we come out in the 3rd quarter, and Patrick Nix, there's Gator again. That's what, number 5? 5 or 6? That's 5. That's number 5. 18 yards. This drive does not produce any points, and I believe Florida is going to take over here. We're going to just skip ahead to the Florida. It is cool to see Patrick Nix. Yeah, here comes Florida. So Terry Dean up, play action. Dean over the middle. Good things happen when Terry Dean.
Fred
Good
Smith.
things happen. That's 4 interceptions on Terry Dean plus the phone.
He's got his hands in his pockets now. He doesn't grab the visor.
Oh my gosh! So that's 4 interceptions on Terry Dean. Plus the fumble. I mean, we're talking Jamie Howard territory here.
But also, like, Florida was the best offense there was multiple Auburn guys who could have intercepted that maybe.
Oh, yeah.
But Florida, best offense in the country, and Auburn has held them whatever to 14 points at this point and created all these turnovers.
That's it. All right, I formation now. Nix pitching to Stephen Davis. There goes Stephen Davis. There goes
pushing that
Davis.
Florida guy down the field.
I like that now that we've kind of got the lead, we switched to the I formation and just kind of hammering at them now. I like it.
I do too. We're on the road. The crowd's a little nervous at this point.
Yeah. All right, here comes now. Danny Werfel's just come in, and Werfel's going to take a shot, and he throws it a little, and that should have been out of bounds. I don't know about that.
This is early Werfel. I think people in hindsight know him as the guy that won the Heisman Trophy and was a had one of the better seasons in SEC history, but this is the beginning of his career, and some of his first playing time.
Oh, absolutely. I think he might have played he might have played in the 93 game as a freshman, but then Dean had taken back over the spot again because Dean was older. Look, does that I can't
I can't see his feet in that angle.
yeah,
guy's
it was
blocking.
close. All right, so here comes another big Stephen Davis run, and then we'll reset what the game situation is. Look at Stephen Davis. This was one of the top run defenses in the country. Ooh, he took out Spurrier, didn't he? This is one of the top run defenses in the country. Let me pause here while we appreciate Stephen Davis. So, all right. So Fred Smith made that interception, which was the 4th interception on Dean. Dean is done. Now we got to say a little bit about Terry Dean. He came into the game as the leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy and the number 1 ranked team in the country. Supposedly Dean grew up as an Auburn fan and said he had once owned Auburn pajamas. This game ends his college football career pretty much, which we talked about in volume 1 of We Believed. And I want to go ahead and now that Werfel is in, let's do a little post-mortem on Terry Dean. This is how we put it in We Believed. In 1989, Terry Dean was planning to sign with Auburn with Pat Dye. But Florida hired Steve Spurrier at the end of 89, and Terry Dean said that Florida wasn't even on his radar until they hired Spurrier, which is ironic because Spurrier pretty much ends his career and drove him crazy. He went in this game, and he's out now, so we can do this. Terry Dean was 9 of 17 for 126 yards. Right? This is this high-powered Florida offense. Terry Dean was 9 of 17 for 126 yards. 4 interceptions. That means he threw 8 passes. He threw 9. All right, he threw 9 passes to Florida receivers, 4 to Auburn defenders, and 4 that were incomplete.
The ball wasn't hitting the grass much.
It wasn't hitting the grass much. It just was not very discriminatory as to who was catching it. At this point, his career is over. Now, Dean's quote after the game was, Spurrier told me Monday before the Auburn game that if I had a bad game, he would bench me. He told me that again Friday before the game. If I wasn't playing well, he would pull me. I threw those interceptions because I wasn't myself. I was looking over my shoulder. So Dean says it's Spurrier's fault.
Spurrier undermined his confidence.
Yes.
Listen, if you play for Spurrier, you better have thick skin because this is the deal. You're gonna hear it.
Yeah. The Jim Hodges of the LA Times said Terry Dean has been the equivalent of a yo-yo at Florida, and the string has played out. On Monday against Florida State in the Sugar Bowl, he will trot out with the rest of the co-captains for the coin toss, then return to the sideline, his work done for the day and for his career. Ow. Ouch. So Dean said, I'm ready to be gone. It's been a frustrating 5 years. I definitely think I'm capable of bigger and better things. I still think I'm the best quarterback here. Okay. There are a lot of reasons why I want to make it in the pros. And one of them is I want to be able to go back to Gainesville and say, I got a little redemption. Nobody else believed me, but I never lost the idea I could make it. Here is a great Steve Spurrier quote to that. Spurrier says, look, I'm not going to win any battles with Terry Dean, and I don't want to. I'll be the bad guy. I've tried to coach Terry the best I can, and I've failed. If he goes on to have a proven NFL career, then obviously it was my fault. He didn't do better here. You got to love that from Spurrier. That's a concise, that's an ice pick to the skull right there.
But also Spurrier doesn't do the coach speak thing, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it interesting? Back in the time that this was all happening, we hated Spurrier. And we look back now, I love him.
I think Spurrier, the evolution of Spurrier into cartoon character Spurrier, as Spencer Hall called him, like hating ass Spurrier, that, when he was ripping on other people and stuff, like that was fun. I enjoyed that. But also you do forget, like, early SEC Spurrier was an absolute war machine. Mm-hmm. They destroyed us again and again. Their offense ran through the league like a knife through butter. And so to see them struggle was a really different thing.
I mean, some of Spurrier's greatest hits about Tennessee, you can can't spell citrus out UT. And when was it South Carolina wore all black, and he says, I appreciate them wearing black so our receivers could see the ball better. I mean, he always had something like that.
He was the best.
It was so good. Terry Dean goes undrafted by the NFL. He plays in the Canadian League, passing for 109 yards in his career, and which is about what he had in this game. And then in the Arena League, he threw for 69 yards. Not the career one might have expected from Terry Dean. Maybe he should have listened to Pat Dye.
But also, like, I think Spurrier system and the receivers made him look better than he was a little bit. And I think Wuerffel was simply a much better quarterback. I
think at Auburn, he would have been kind of another Patrick Nix, like kind of a workman, not going out there throwing for 500 yards, but just like handing off to our running backs and, the kind of play that Nix is having in this game, just kind of good old basic. That's what he would have been. Yeah. Which I don't think would have gotten him in the NFL either. I mean, at least he did take the shot with Spurrier, so you got to give him credit for trying. But all right, so Wuerffel is in now. Let's see, we had Stephen Davis's run, but I think we're going to go ahead and move ahead. Let's see. All right, so this was the
replay of the run.
Yeah, so we're just looking at how the offensive line blocked. The tight end to the right, but the action goes to the left. The Florida guy's out of position. Davis, good block
by the receiver out there. Right?
Yeah. Oh, freed him up. Yeah.
It may have been Sanders.
May have. I wouldn't doubt it a bit. So he's already got 16 carries, 105 yards. All right. So Wuerffel's in, and Wuerffel's going to get sacked and go down hard.
Big Mike Pelton.
Oh, yeah. Those guys, man. All right, let's see. So Bobby Daffin and Mike Pelton with the sack. But again, Florida, you get the vampire down. You got to drive a stake through the heart. Here comes Wuerffel to Riedel Anthony. No, to Ike Hilliard. That's Ike Hilliard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's Ike Hilliard, who I believe goes on to have a big career with the Giants.
Yeah, he was really good. I mean, he toured the SEC up at Florida, and I think he ended up playing for multiple NFL teams and being productive. So.
Yeah. So
Chris Doering, one of our least favorite players.
Oh
ever.
Lord, the next year is going to be the Chris Doering show. Yeah. The next year. All right, so it's 26-22 Florida. Here comes Stephen Davis again. Just look at that. Just
breaking tackles.
Oh, Davis, man. Awesome. Florida went for 2 and didn't make it. So it's 26-22 Florida.
And both teams have violated Van's rule by going for 2 too early.
Oh, definitely.
Davis looking a little banged up here.
He's a little banged up. He's not going to figure. He's got 19 carries, 118 yards, 6.2 average. Not too bad. But he's not. Davis doesn't really figure big into the later drives, so that might explain why. All right, so now it is 3rd down, and Nix looks back, and he's going to go to – is that old Thomas Bailey again?
Thomas Bailey. Big game for him.
Down to the Florida 31. And then I think we may use a backup running back or something here and mess around and gain like a yard. So we're going to – on 2 plays. So we're going to get 3rd down from the Florida 30. I believe it. Yeah, this is 3rd down from just outside the Florida 30.
Mid 4th quarter. Yeah, we moved ahead here.
That's right. And we're back to the old split shotgun back. Yeah, 3rd and 9. And he's got an option either side. Kind of looks like a screen pass, but it turns out to be Gator again. And look at Andy Fuller breaking tackles. He's going to score. Touchdown, Auburn! Touchdown, Auburn!
Andy Fuller. That play looked like it was going to go badly, right? He's falling backward, drifting backward. It looks like Florida has the screens to the outside covered, and there's Andy Fuller.
This is known as Nix to Sanders, or Nix to Sanders 2, this game, and yet it really, in a lot of ways, seems like it's Nix to Fuller. That was, I guess, his 6th completion to Fuller, and the first one to go 30 yards, go for a touchdown, 30 yards.
But also, maybe the single greatest day for an Auburn tight end ever.
Arguably.
I'd say Lutzenkirchen 2010 Iron Bowl, but
yeah. All right, so Hawkins puts it through 29-26 Auburn midway through the fourth quarter. All right, here comes Florida back in the I. It's weird to see Florida under Spurrier in the I formation, but they did that. Not even pretending to play action. He's just like, oh, no. Oh, Werfel. Oh, gosh.
Willie Whitehead.
Willie Whitehead was great. He was a smart guy, tough guy. All right. Generally, Werfel's having a better game, though, right? There's a little play action, and now Werfel's going to go down the middle. If this was Terry Dean, it'd be an interception. But Jack Jackson again, he's having a big game.
Mm-hmm. See, Werfel has a little more zip on his passes, too. Some of Dean's were kind of floating. And
it's true.
This out route just puts a little zip on the ball. And
it could have been, is that Chris Schelling there, number 4?
Yep.
He was almost in position to intercept that, but it was thrown just far enough that it got past him. All right, here goes Werfel again. Oh, again, this would have been an interception, but instead it's Jack Jackson again.
He's fast.
Yeah. Now, how did Dean not do that?
I think some of it was the arm strength and touch, but also confidence. Like some of it was the timing thing too. Like Dean was throwing too late or too early, and in this case, Werfel was right with Jackson when he was breaking away from the Auburn defender.
Well, there's a reason Werfel wins the Heisman Trophy 2 years later.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the anticipation, he is one of the best at.
So clearly, either he just ran past somebody or they missed an assignment. All right, Nix to Frank Sanders for a good gain. Oh, by the way, I'm going to stop and note this. Another little note here. So Werfel has now hit his first 10 passes without an incompletion or an interception. Touchdowns of 26 yards to Riedel Anthony, 17 to Ike Hilliard, and 28 to Jack Jackson. So Werfel is now 10 for 10 with 3 touchdowns. That's quite a – here's Terry Dean saying, I still think I'm the best quarterback on the roster. And look at those numbers. If Werfel had played the whole game, I don't know that we would have won the game.
I think it's fair. I think that's a good point. I like the sign in the middle here that says the luck stops here because it goes back to what we talked about in the pregame. There was this perception that Auburn was lucky, that 93 was fluky, the early season games in 94 were fluky, and this would be the turnaround.
It would not, in fact, be the turnaround. But, yeah, so it's now 33-29 Florida with just under 6 minutes to go. And it's starting to get a little scary because A, Florida's taking the lead, and B, Werfel's playing really well.
He's hot.
Yeah. I'm getting panicky at this point. I'm like, well, it was fun while it lasted. So here comes Patrick Nix.
Look at those haircuts.
That's Florida. No, I guess we skipped that. All right, so now we're inside of 6 minutes. It's a long I formation for Florida, 3rd and 15. Werfel gonna not even pretend. A little holding by the Florida line. Oh, Brian Robinson.
There were again 3 Auburn defenders back there, 1 receiver deep down the middle, and
I just love Spurrier's reaction so much.
That's the other thing about when Spurrier does that, like he's all of us, right? All the fans are like,
oh, he doesn't even pretend or be encouraging to the quarterback. He's like as bad as any fan about it. So there was a little holding. We had a guy coming right up the middle, got pressure.
But you could see like if he hadn't gotten it, number 9 might have got it too. So
yeah, where was the receiver?
He was coming from the left and he was behind number 9. So I think that was just a poorly placed ball by Werfel.
Yeah. All right. So now we got a single back with Nix in the shotgun, offset in the slot receiver, all kind of time, all day. Right. There was that protection.
But also Frank Sanders started to take over now.
And came back to the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there you see that, Florida winning, but it should say but. All right. So that's 3 interceptions by Brian Robinson. More receptions than from Florida quarterbacks than a lot of the Florida receivers have at this point. All right. So I believe it's 33-29. It's 4. Oh, this is the 4th and 10. Okay, this is
51 seconds left.
51 seconds to go. 4th and 10 in Florida territory. Patrick Nix takes a snap, looks, gonna let it go. We gotta have it. Oh, it's Bailey. Thomas Bailey on the sideline. Would you have, with Frank Sanders, would you have gone to Thomas Bailey on that?
He was having a good day. He was productive, so I get it.
Yeah. Well, I guess he was more open. I guess they probably double covered Sanders or something. They probably were all over. If I were Spurrier or Pruitt, I would have been all over Frank Sanders on that play. So let's see. We're inside of 50 seconds to go now. We're still down 4 points. So a field goal doesn't help us. We've got to score a touchdown with 43 seconds to go. Single back, shotgun. Nick's going to look, got all day to throw, plenty of protection. And who is 32? Oh, Willie Gaucher.
Willie Gaucher, right. A young in his career who ends up having much more of a connection with Craig over the next few years. But
yes,
making plays here.
Yeah, he's a Damian Craig. Oh, now, and this is the one Spurrier later says this is where he knew the game was getting away from him when they made the first down and then made the long pass down inside.
Look at the cushion the receiver he's getting there. I mean,
yeah. And Nix has had all day to throw the ball. We were talking about the protection.
Mm-hmm. It's true. The offensive line, great game.
Played really well. All right, here we go. Here comes the rush right up the middle. Going to float it in the end zone for Frank Sanders. Touchdown, Auburn! Touchdown, Auburn! Next to Sanders! Next to Sanders! Aubrey going crazy. The band going crazy. They're not even playing their instruments. Spurrier just, crushed. I love the band.
The band guy's not playing, just screaming.
Just screaming. Oh, man. Spurrier's like trying to figure out what to do. Terry has no idea. The Gators are like, man. Frank Sanders getting hugs from the lineman. Nix is yelling. Look at the band. There he goes.
Frank Sanders is the man.
Oh, it was so good. I mean, he had like 2 guys on him there. I think that was Damian Craig hugging Nix. And
also, big plays in the passing game when the game is on the line. Frank Sanders made it happen.
He did. Absolutely. This was Nix to Sanders 2. Nix to Sanders 1 being when Nix came in when Stan White got hurt in the previous Iron Bowl 93, and first play he threw the touchdown to I don't know what that was. That the first play he threw the touchdown to Sanders to beat Alabama, or at least to put us ahead, and then we went on to beat them. So the extra point is good. Jim Fife went crazy. Brent Musburger went crazy. Albee went crazy. The band went crazy.
Great effort by Sanders to go get the ball there too.
Yeah. Yeah. He absolutely just, let's watch it one more time. Sanders just defeats the coverage. There's 2 guys in the neighborhood, and he doesn't care.
But also, you call it early, like they brought the pressure up the middle, and Nick saw it coming and got rid of the ball quickly, like on time and on target. But like he had to get rid of it.
If that had been Auburn's secondary, it could have been an interception. Brian Robinson would have had that ball or something. So I think the Florida secondary was just a little suspect, and we took advantage of it. Sanders had actually dropped the first down pass a couple of plays earlier before Bailey made the first down. So here's Spurrier trying to drop a ball play. Yep, gonna drop a ball play. Where Werfel sprints to we got him down to the 1 yard line. Timeout, frantically. So down at the goal line, and now they got time for one more play. But like Cam Newton standing there. We got time for one more Florida play, although they all know it's over. Auburn celebrating. That lesser Penn State. Yeah. All right, here we go. 13 seconds to go. This is going to pretty much do it. Werfel got a single back. He's going to look. Oh, almost gets the safety. Throws it to an offensive lineman who is an illegal receiver who immediately gets tackled. Auburn declines the penalty. Terry wants a safety.
Intentional grounding?
Because you can't throw it to an offensive lineman. It's an illegal. Yeah, there's an argument to be made. This should have been a safety because they attempted an illegal pass to avoid a sack in the end zone.
That's fair.
But the referees basically just say no.
The referees want to get out of town.
They do. They want to get out of there. This is going to be Auburn. This is going to be Florida under Spurrier's first loss at home. And so, Eric Kresser comes in. They're going to try. I think this is the double pass. They get two. It should have been a safety, but they're going to give him one more chance here. And Florida's going to try a double pass with Eric Kresser, who would be the guy that was come in to replace Werfel a couple of years later, occasionally to back him up. So, yeah, the first thing he does is throw it out there to Kresser, and then Kresser is going to let it go. And that's it. I remember Brock Berlin was part of that mess too. All right, here comes Terry. Look out. He's running. Got that Pat Dye outfit, the tennis shoes and the tie. I love the handshake. What'd you make of that handshake?
Again, it's appropriate, the drive-by handshake. We don't have to do the big hug, have a conversation thing. We just shake hands, keep moving.
Yeah, the drive-by handshake. And there's Werfel not happy. I think we see there's Spurrier not happy. I want to see some Gator fans lamenting their life choices. Somewhere in here,
those a lot of those starter jackets on the field.
Oh yeah, There's that Terry Bowden hat. See the back of that guy's hat where Terry's kind of bending over, his hands on his knees. I never knew what the deal was with that. All right, somebody's trying to grab Pat. I feel like we get some. So Nix is the player of the game, and Danny Werfel certainly deserved it for coming in But Auburn didn't have a single turnover, John.
That's amazing to go into that kind of environment and the pressure of this game with it, another team can score and not create a turnover. That's and I want to guess like Brian Robinson had one of the best seasons ever by an Auburn defensive back this year.
Oh my gosh!
Finished the year with 8 interceptions in 11 games. So.
And that's with Chris Schelling and Fred Smith, right?
Ken Alvis.
Oh, yeah. There were so many other guys around him, which contributed to it, right? There was nowhere you could go to get away from him. You just make the other guy a star. So 28 out of 51 for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns for Patrick Nix. Pretty good. Pretty good. That's pretty good. So Terry kind of makes the argument here that Auburn has beaten number one, and they've beaten this team 2 years in a row. So we should be number one. Of course, that would not happen. Auburn would go on to win the next 2 games, and then we'd have the draw against Georgia and then the Iron Bowl that we won't talk about. So ended up 21-1 after his first 2 seasons. I don't know if we're going to get to it here. We're going to wrap up in a second, but Lee Corso is on set, and they ask him if Auburn is number one, and Corso says, "I don't rate teams that are on probation." And Craig James calls him out, man. All right, so Auburn defense, 5 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery, rush for 168. They've been allowing 47 yards on the Florida defense rushing. That's pretty good.
Look how young they all are.
Yeah. But Craig James tells him, you're taking the easy way out by saying you're not going to rank them because they're on probation. He gives them some crap here, and that's pretty good. So, all right. So, to end up with the final score was 36-33. We got the extra point to go up 3. And I feel like the Auburn secondary won this game. The offense just kept doing enough, right? They found ways to.
The offense, we got to, as you said, Nix had a great game. No turnovers in the swamp, ran the ball well. The offense was really good. You're going into Florida, even if you make great plays, they're going to score 30 points. So you got to do something on offense. You got to come out and take advantage of the situation, but also not put your defense in bad situations. And they did a great job of that.
They did. The next year when Florida came to Auburn with pretty much the same team, we didn't have the same secondary, and Chris During scored like 28 points on us in just like the second quarter.
Yeah.
That was the 50 something to like 56 to 48 or 56 to 49, something like that game, where we scored even more than we did in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't enough because we never could stop them without that secondary. So yeah, that's really was a story of the LSU game, and this game was just the way the defensive backs played was really nice. So let's point out, if you want to see more of our analysis, you want to read our cool analysis of this season and a bunch of others, We Believed Volume 1, which covers the late 70s through the end of the Terry Bowden era. So you get all the Pat Dye stuff, and you get the Terry Bowden games, including we talk about the interception game, we talk about this game, all kind of cool stuff. So, all right, any final thoughts about the 1994 team or season before we wrap up for today, John?
One of the greatest, if not the, I would say if you rank Auburn road wins historically, I think it's 2010 Alabama and then this, to me. And I think, as we've said multiple times, there was a perception of Auburn that they were the lucky team. It was fluky. The ball was bouncing their way. And this was a statement win on national television against a team everybody perceived was this unstoppable juggernaut, and we went in there and beat them. It was huge, because then the perception of Auburn went from fluky, lucky team to, well, they're just good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it hurts even more how the games play out at the very end of the season, because you felt like if we went undefeated 2 years in a row, we would have been in the conversation for the national championship, even without the postseason. And last thing for me, I think this is the only time in Auburn history we beat the number one team in the country on the road. We've done it a couple of times, several times at home, but I think this is the only time we've done it on the road. So, all right, we're going to get on out of here. John, we'll think about doing another one of these maybe. I thought this was pretty fun.
It was very fun. I enjoyed it a lot. If you liked this, please let us know. But also, if there's a specific game you would like for us to do, let us know. But I enjoyed this, man. It was fun.
Yeah, this is the 30th anniversary of that season, so it seemed like a good choice. And of course, it's also the 20th anniversary of the 2004 season. So there's a couple of games in there that are maybe at play, although not quite as high scoring as this one, but
still dramatic.
Still dramatic. All right, check us out, AU Wishbone, on all your podcast apps, and we will see you guys down the road. War Eagle, John.
War Eagle, man.